Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good morning, everyone. Today we go into a new lecture that is about the smell and the taste. Yesterday we discussed about the derived matter in general and also about the color, the object that we see in our vision. So today we move on to another two types of derived matter which also belongs to the sense objects. We call them Ganda and Rasa in Pali. Ganda and Rasa. In English the rendering would be smell and taste, or sometimes we translate as odor as well, but normally odor gives a negative type of a feeling, impression, but still it's okay. So smell and taste are the topics today. We already know that the most fundamental or the major elements of the material world are the four great elements: the hardness, the Patavi, Apo, Tejo and Vayu. So when they are together, when these elements come together, there happens to be another four types of derived matter which are general to all the kalapas, all the material clusters, which are found in all the material clusters. They are color, smell, taste and the nutriment. So the next Saturday we'll discuss about the nutriment which is called Oja in Pali, or Ahara Rupa. So before that, today we will focus on Ganda and Rasa, which is the smell and the taste. There's nothing much to explain about them because they act similar. Their characteristics are somewhat similar to that of color, the Varna, which we discussed yesterday. But slight differences are there, so we shall focus on them. It won't be a very detailed lecture, but we need to focus on these two qualities which are fundamental according to the Theravada teachings. So according to the handout which I was able to distribute yesterday, when four great elements come together as a cluster, another ultimate reality which is sensitive to the no sensitivity, Gana happens to occur within the cluster. It is called Gandharupa. This nature strikes at the no sensitivity and causes the arising of the nose consciousness. Unlike the color, Varna, unlike the color, the smell strikes at the nose. We discussed this matter yesterday. According to the Theravada teachings, color causes an image to appear on the eye sensitivity without physically contacting it. But in the case of Ganda and Rasa, the phenomenon is slightly different. Ganda and Rasa physically strikes against the sensitivity, their respective corresponding sensitivities. Only then the consciousness can occur. So when we Gandharupa. Gandharupa is, for instance, if this is the nose sensitivity, shall draw it. The nose sensitivity, the Gandharupas have to come and strike against them. But with regard to the color, this was the eye. The sensitivity, the color causes an image to appear. Color being here causes the image to appear on the sensitivity. But in the case of the Ganda, it has to physically come and strike against the Gana Pasada. So we call it Vattu Asena Sangatana. The same thing should happen with regard to Rasa. There should be a physical contact between the sense object and the sense organ. So this matter, this point we shall be discussing when we come into the sense organ, the sensitivity under the topic of Kamajarupas. So anyhow, this Gandharupa is sensitive to the nose sensitivity, and it causes the arising of Gana Vijnana. When this striking happens, a consciousness called nose consciousness occurs here in the sensitivity. And it smells the object, it feels the object. That is the main functions of the Gandharupa. It's becoming sensitive to the nose and also causing the arising of the nose consciousness. These are the main functions of the Gandharupa. Another synonym for Gandharupa is Gandharamana. Right? Gandharamana. So instead of saying Gandharupa, sometimes you may have heard of Gandharamana. Gandha also. You can call it Gandha even. Gandharupa, Gandharamana. Sometimes the word Gandha can also be used alone. Yeah. Gandha ayatana, Gandha dhatu is also another two terms that we normally find. It is also an inbuilt quality according to the Abhidhamma. This smell is found within the Rupa Kalapa. Within the Rupa Kalapa. Scientifically speaking, Gandha, the sense of Gandha is something which is created in the brain. When the particles which are gaseous, which are in the form of gas, enters into our nose and strikes against the receptor cells, they cause us a certain, they get stimuli, they act as a stimuli, and then they send a signal to the area, the brain, which is responsible for this, the sense of smell. And there occurs a certain kind of a smell, the idea of a smell, the sense of the smell occurs there. So according to that, Gandha is not a, smell is not a inbuilt quality of the matter. It is something that which occurs, a sense or a feeling or a sensation that occurs in the brain. But according to Theravadians, now if you think about the Rupa Kalapa, we have discussed about this, we find the four great elements, Patavi, Apo, Tejo and Vayu. And then we have the color, Varna, Gandha, Rasa and Oja. Rasa and Oja. So these are found within the Kalapa. It's not just a sensory feeling that occurs in the brain or occurs in the mind. So according to them, we'll come to that point how to understand this matter of fact. Normally what happens is, now when a object, material object fumes the smell, particles excessive with the Gandha, they enter into our nostrils and strikes against the Ghana ayatana, we call the nose sensitivity. And this striking causes another consciousness which is called Ghana Vinya to occur there. That's normally what happens. A very important factor that the Gandharupa, the particles which carry the Gandha, which are possessed by which has Gandha, has to be in a state of, we normally call it in English, volatile state. The word we use, volatile. They have to be volatile. Volatile means they are gaseous. They are in state of a gas. In Pali, you can find this in 2.88, right? So in Pali also, in the literature, it is said that air is a vital factor for the arising of the nose consciousness or the Ghana Vijnana, because they have to, the particles have to be carried till the Ghana Pasada, nose sensitivity. So now if this is the object, the smelly object, it fumes certain particles, it emits certain particles. If this object is full of Gandha, it means it fumes, it releases certain particles with Gandharupa. And they come and strikes at into our nostril. So it means if you are smelling something ill, something very bad, those unpleasant particles are inside our nose, right? Even if you smell excrement, it means excrement particles are inside our nose. So it has to come and strikes at our Ghana Pasada. So they have to be in a gaseous state. So that's why it is mentioned in the commentaries that in order to have the sense of smell, Ghana Vijnana, air element, Vayu Dhatu, is a vital factor. unless if the air is not there, there is no way that these particles come and strikes at our nose. So therefore, the carrier of the smell is the air, or we can call the particles are in a gaseous state, they are volatile, right? That is a vital factor. But with regard to the taste, the factor, the medium would be apo, the liquid. The thing has to be dissolved in saliva. Normally saliva acts as the liquid, or either in the water. So only then it will be able to interact with it will go into the inside the, we don't call them taste buds, maybe certain parts of the tongue, they may go inside and interact with the taste buds or the receptor cells. So with regard to the eye, visible object, the color, the medium would be light. Only if there is light, color would be visible to us, right? With regard to the gandha, the medium is air. With regard to the rasa, the medium would be apo, any sort of a liquid. Then with regard to the touch, the commentary says the patavi of our own body acts as the surface, because when the sensitivity, we shall discuss about this when we come to the Kammaja chapter. If this is the sensitivity, and if a strike happens, the pottabba, the striking object strikes at here, to have a firm contact, this sensitivity has to be supported by another hard surface. Only then the proper contact, tangible contact would happen. So, and then with regard to the sound, the commentators mention the space is what is necessary, the space. It has been explained in two ways. One way is that our nose, ear holes, our ears should not be filled with anything. There should be a certain space, the empty space should be there. Anyway, we'll talk about this matter, because there are two ways that we can explain about this spatial aspect when we come to the sound. We'll discuss about this matter when we come to the Kammaja Rupas and also the Uttaja Rupas, while we discuss about the sound. So now this air, beg your pardon, the gandha, the smell, has to strike at the nose sensitivity. Then smell is also another separate element which is found depending on the four great elements. They do not belong to any of the great elements. Like similar to the visible object or the color. We said that the color is not an attribute of the elements. It is a new element which arises while the four great elements are there. So we cannot say the smell is the smell of patavi, or it's the smell of apo or tejo or vayu. Smell is a new particle, the element. So they are all the eight we find in Rupa Kalapa have their own individual existence. But the last four depends on the previous, the great elements. But it doesn't deny their existence. And they are not just mere attributes of the four great elements. So it's not proper to say that this is the color of patavi and so forth, because the four great elements do not have a color. They are smellless, they cannot be felt by the nose, and they are tasteless. They don't have any specific taste. Taste, color, and the smell are new elements that occur when the four great elements are together, right? That is also another thing that we have to keep it in our mind. Nature of the smell in a kalapa is determined by the nature and proportion of the four great elements in it. So that is decided by the proportion and the nature of the four great elements. And the next thing is the 2.8. There should be a difference in number. 2.84 should not be there. Anyway, we'll go as it is mentioned in the handout. I'll change it in the next handout. Nature of the smell in a according to Theravada, each kalapa has its smell, but our noses are not sensitive to all of them, especially the subtle ones. But there is an argument about this. The Mula Tika says that the smell is not found in the kalapas in the Brahma realm, based on the information found in Dhatu Katha and Yamaka. I think we discussed about this matter yesterday. But generally speaking, the Theravadins accept the fact that all the Kalapas contain Gandharupa, right? Then another very obvious factor that we can practically experience is if there is a certain kind of a smell around within our environment, and if our nose become too much sensitive or too much familiar with this smell, after some time we tend to not to feel it anymore. Our noses become very familiar and we don't smell it anymore, and we become oblivious to this. This phenomenon can be found with regard to other objects as well. For instance, if a constantly occurring sound is in the environment, when our ears become familiar to that, we'll be able to focus on other activities without listening to it, without hearing that. Our minds ignore that sound. If that sound is constantly occurring in a normal nature, but if a sudden change of the sound happens, our attention goes there, right? So this phenomenon can be found in other objects with regard to other objects as well. But the difference is, if a constantly occurring sound is around within the environment, even though we are not sensitive to it all the time, whenever we want, we can give our focus to it and listen to it. Right? Whenever we want, we can listen to it. But with regard to Gandha, the smell, the phenomenon is a little bit different. So when we are familiar to the smell around us, or smell regarding our body, after some time, even purposefully, we will not be able to smell it. Only a person coming from outside to that environment will be able to smell it, right? So that is another strange phenomenon which is occurring with regard to smell only, as far as I know. The color also, now if the things that around us, we are not paying attention to that. But whenever we want, we can focus on it. When there's a sound, for instance, think about the sound of an air con. We can feel it, we can listen, we can hear it. But while we are focusing on our studies or reading a book, after some time we just our minds don't give attention to it. Now think about a person who is living near an airport. Always the planes are traveling or landing and taking off. But after some time, even though number of aeroplanes have moved across that environment, we may not be able to recall them. We are not attentive to that. Our minds tend to neglect such objects which are occurring frequently. That is the nature. But whenever we want, purposefully, we can pay attention to it and know that object, know that sound. But with regard to Gandha, someone may come and tell, oh, there's a certain smell or a fragrance in your environment. Sometimes we may feel, I don't get it. The thing is, our noses have become familiar to that. So it's another very strange phenomenon of Gandha. Due to being familiar, sometimes it is not felt to us. It's quite hard. Only after we have gone to another environment and come back again, we'll be able to smell this, right? We'll be able to smell this. Then, with regard to the scientific explanation, or before that, we'll come into some other points. Smell is basically threefold. Even that was had to be mentioned with regard to visible object also. I gave the explanation as the color is twofold. Actually, it is threefold. That is the pleasant color, the pleasant, unpleasant, and neither pleasant nor unpleasant. So these are the three types of the objects, sense objects that we get. With regard to Gandha also, it is threefold. If the Gandha contains ittaramana rasa, a pleasant flavor of that object, we consider it as a pleasant smell. If the flavor is unpleasant, we consider the object as unpleasant. If the flavor is neither pleasant nor unpleasant, in the middle state, we consider the object as neither pleasant nor unpleasant. So then, with regard, and smell is a very vital factor for us whether to like someone or not. If the body fumes a bad smell, most of the people would not like to associate such a person. It's really, it strikes at our emotions. It's very close to our mind. So smell is a vital factor for someone to like someone else or to dislike. So it can be the smell of our body or smell of our mouth or whatever it is. So it is an object that is very appealing to the sensual desires. Normally it is mentioned that human bodies have a foul smell. That's what we do, what we contemplate in Asubha Bhavana. Normally the smell of humans is foul, and it is said that the Devas cannot bear the smell of humans. Even for 100 yojans, they still feel the foul smell of the humans. So it shows that the smell is not smell of the humans is not very pleasant, and it is also been explained in the Asubha Bhavana. But there are stories in which we hear some people were fuming or releasing certain fragments from their mouth while they were speaking, like the smell of a lily or smell of a lotus, and some bodies happened to fume certain fragrances. So there are stories about it. I'm not sure whether this applies to the entire body, but according to Paramattha Dipani, it's mentioned the color of the Buddha's body is pleasant to everyone, but its smell has to be considered unpleasant. That makes sense, because if the Buddha is doing contemplation on Asubha Bhavana upon his body, he has to consider it as not pleasant, right? Ill-pleasant. And also one time when the Buddha was sick and he was passing stools while in his room, the Sakka used to carry them. So the Buddha asked the question, how could you bear these ill-smelling parts of my body? Then he said, no, I just feel the fragrance of your virtue, not the ill smell of your body. So it's therefore, even of the Buddha, as he has been a human, the smell of the kalapas inside his body has to be considered as unpleasant, right? That's what is mentioned in the footnote 3 in the page number 2. Tata buddhassa sarira gatepi ekasmin kalape vanno itto hoti. The color is pleasant. Gandho anitto. Gandho anitto. The gandha is not pleasant, right? Maybe it's some kalapas, but it seems like, because it's a human body, it has to be unpleasant, right? Then smell is another. It's a highly reminiscent element. Reminiscent means it causes lots of memories to come up. It brings up our memories. Smell about the past humans that we have associated, also the events or the objects. It's very close to emotions. It's very close to our emotions. Then with regard to science, when the objects, the particles, we call it volatile, they go into the nose and strikes at the olfactory epithelium, they call olfactory epithelium. So there are certain neurons that are the odor receptors. They are sensitive to the smell. So there happens a certain chemical reaction, and signals are sent to the brain, and there we get the sense of the smell. Scientifically, the sense of smell is felt in the following way. When we breathe, air carries particles through nostrils and lands on the olfactory epithelium. There, these particles dissolve in mucus and stimulate smell receptors. So according to that, APO is still needed for the smell to be felt. So according to science, it dissolves in the mucus, because our noses are covered with a layer of mucus. So it dissolves in mucus, and then it stimulates the smell recepting cells, and it sends a signal to the brain, where sends signals to the olfactory bulb in the brain. There is a certain region in the brain which is responsible for the sense of smell, and there we get the idea of a smell. That's how it is explained scientifically. So according to that, smell is a feeling, a sense that occurs in the brain. But the question can be asked, now yes, it causes the arising of the sense of smell. So how did that object cause it? So the answer would be, scientifically, it is the nature of the attribution should be given not to the object but to the cells, the neurons, that the smell receptors. So they had the nature, reacting with a certain particle, they send certain signals to the certain parts of the body which cause the sense of smell. So according to that, smell is something which is felt based on how our body is made. Due to the nature of the neurons, the sense of smell is found in us. according to the science. But according to the Eastern philosophy, the Theravadians especially, it is a quality, inbuilt quality within the object. So our whatever neurons or whatever particles in our body, the physical stuff in our body, becomes sensitive to this aspect of the particle. It should be understood like this. Now, for example, according to Theravada teachings, the particles moves and strikes there, and then it is sensitive. So even according to science, the similar phenomenon happens. Particles do strike at the nose. But here the difference is, now there are certain smell receptors here. They send signals to the brain, and then the idea of smell occurs here. So why this idea came? That is because the neurons, these neurons had the nature. They have a neuron, or there are certain receptors. So these receptors have the quality of sending a certain signal to the brain. So the object that struck here, and there's a certain chemical functioning going on. So what is responsible for this signal, because this same particle can strike at the tongue and send a different sort of a signal to the brain. So according to them, it's the particle that strikes. So it's not an inbuilt quality of the particle. It is the sense is made by the nature of the neurons which transmits the signals, and also the brain. But according to Theravadians, the smell is an inbuilt quality of this particle. And the nose consciousness, NC, right? Nose consciousness feels this. It becomes sensitive to this smell which is found here in the object. Right? But scientifically, the smell is not found here. It is a feeling that occurs in the brain due to how the neurons, certain neurons, not all neurons, certain, we call them olfactory sensory neurons, which are sensitive to the smell. So as they react, the idea comes. So that's a huge difference between the two philosophies. Scientifically, it is an idea that is found in the brain, and according to the tradition, it is a quality that is found in the object itself. Our consciousness becomes sensitive to that object. Now a question can be asked, why such a signal was sent? What is the contribution of this object to the smell? So actually what has happened is, they react with the neuron and a certain signal is sent. So the idea of a smell, who is responsible for this idea is mainly, both are responsible. If there was no object, there should not be such idea of smell. But mainly, the nature of the smell is determined by the nature of the neuron. Right? Nature of the neuron. So that is why I mentioned in these lectures, there are huge differences between how the science explains this function and also how the tradition explains this. Anyway, so these are the differences. Then we move on. There can be philosophical arguments about this. Yeah, we'll come into that point later on. Then we move into the Rasa Rupa, another object, another topic. Rasa Rupa. Rasa Rupa is the taste. All the characteristics are similar, somewhat similar to that of Gandha, smell. But the only difference is its nature, it's the way it functions. When four great elements come together as a cluster, another ultimate quality which is sensitive to the tongue occurs with them. It is called Rasa Rupa. This nature strikes at the tongue sensitivity and causes the arising of the tongue consciousness. The smell strikes at the nose sensitivity and causes the arising of nose consciousness. On the other hand, taste strikes at the tongue sensitivity and causes the arising of the tongue consciousness. And Rasa Rammana is another synonym for Rasa Rupa. Instead of say Rasa Rupa, we can use Rasa Rammana or Rasa alone as well. Rasa, like Vana. Rasa. So it's also an inbuilt quality within the Kalapa. Scientifically, it is sort of a idea that happens in the brain, similar to how the smell is felt. Then it's not proper to say that the tongue belongs to the four great elements, because the four great elements are tasteless. The taste is not an attribute of the four great elements. It is a new element, a separate element which occurs when the four great elements are there. And according to Abhidhamma, it is found in all the Kalapas, but our tongue is not sensitive to all of them. Our tongue is not sensitive to all of them, especially the subtle ones. And also, according to the function, the particles which carry the taste, have to be dissolved in the saliva, and then they become sensitive to the tongue sensitivity and the consciousness. Occasionally, subsequently the consciousness would occur. And it's also very obvious to us if the particle is hard, it's not that much soluble in saliva, we don't feel the taste. So apo is a vital condition for this feeling of taste to occur. Then the type of the taste which is Kalapa has is determined by the proportion and the nature of the four great elements, as it was mentioned for Vana and Gandha. Then there are 8 types of Rasa Rupas mentioned in Dhammasangani. Dhammasangani we have 8. Ambila and Lambila, that is called sour, not savor. S-A-U, please correct that. So you are sour. Right? There's a printing mistake. So Ambila or Lambila, sour. Then Madhura, sweetness. Tittaka, is a typo. Tittaka should be Tittaka. E should be removed. Tittaka is bitterness. Katuka, I don't know whether I translate it sharp. It's a sort of a sharp taste. Lonika, salty. Karika, alkaline taste. Then Kasava, acidity. I think spelling is wrong. Acidity, anyway, right? Acid, not sure. Then, according to the modern findings, we normally have 5 types of main tastes. I think you are familiar with that. We have sweetness, sweet, sour, salty, bitterness, bitter, and we have umami. This is called savory. And this is a later suggested taste. These are the 5 major tastes. Okay, you can find in Dhammasangani we have I think almost all of them. Sweetness is there, Madhura. Bitterness is Tiktaka. Lambila and Ambila is sour. And then we have salty Lonika. But the umami, the savory is not mentioned. Maybe it's sort of a mixed taste or something. I don't know. Present day, they consider this as one of the major tastes, right? Taste is also threefold, as pleasant, unpleasant, and neither pleasant, no unpleasant, based on the flavor of the aramana rasa. And we should not be mixed with the flavor of the food, right? It's a flavor of an object is a quality within the object. It is found in even in the visible objects, even in the Gandharupa, the flavor. Flavor is called Arama and Rasa. I shall explain this at the end of the lecture. And it's also interesting to note that while we eat, according to some findings, 80% of the taste is smell. So while we are eating, right? Normally we like or dislike food mainly because of the taste, but some may like or dislike based on the nutriment or how it affects the body. But most of the people, I assume, are attracted to food based on the taste, right? But while we are tasting something, the entire experience that we get is not only based on taste. There's a huge contribution given by the smell, right? Given by the smell. Now, and also our feeling of taste is determined by the heat or the coldness of a certain thing. Now think about, okay, for example, a Coca-Cola. You'll not feel the same taste, but while it is normal. Only when it is cool, when it is cold, the feeling that we get is slightly different. About the milk, the cool milk, and also think about a pizza, for example. Pizza, when it is less hotter, now when it's quite tasty when it is hot, but when it is cooled down, we don't get the same feeling. So likewise, the feeling of taste that we get, it's a combination of various senses. While we eat, we have the functioning of the nose sensitivity, the nose door, which is a very vital factor, because now think about some food that when we visit to certain countries, right? Certain food smells a little bit strange to us, right? We don't like it. But for the people in those countries who may like it. In every country you have these kind of food, especially the rotten fish, right? The people who likes it appreciate that smell and eats it. But for the ones who are not familiar with that, it's really terrible to even come close to that food. Another special example is durian, right? Some may like it, but for some it's causing headache. Some may even vomit if you travel with durian in a vehicle. The smell is also a huge contributor to our experience of taste. So now when we think about taste, now it's vital in your vipassana as well. Now the experience of taste, I'll take it into a new experience of taste, right? Ultimately speaking, tongue consciousness is sensitive to the taste of the object. That's it. But when we are thinking about experiencing of taste, for example, someone eating a food, right? While we are eating a food, if there is a tongue, anyway. So this object strikes at the tongue the tongue, and certain particles goes into our nose, and also the striking is not only about with the tongue, but also with the other parts of the mouth as well, right? There are various types. So the body sensitivity is also functioning there. Coldness, heatness is felt. Sometimes this texture feeling is felt, and the taste is felt, smell is felt. So a combination of all, the smell, taste, and the touch, all three contributes to this experience of the taste. A simile is given if you try to eat something having close to your nose. You will not get the same feeling. If you try to eat something very delicious, having close to your nose, you won't get that special feeling of that food, and you'll not be able to feel it delicately. It says that if the nose sensitivity, or the nose is blocked, or if you are not able to smell properly, you may feel the the five major tastes will be felt for sure, but within sour you'll not be able to distinguish what is lemon or lime, right? So likewise, the delicateness of feeling of taste is due to all the factors. Some food you need to have coldness. For some food you need to have heat, right? Otherwise the taste is not felt the same. So experiencing of taste, when you come into vipassana, if you look into this in the vipassana standpoint, right? We normally focus on the taste, how the tongue consciousness feels this taste. That's our focus is. But also keep in mind the experience that we get while we are eating. It's not only about the taste. It's about smell, it's about the touch, and also it's about the taste. So findings say that 80% of the taste is through smell. It shows that a huge contribution is made by the smell. So while you are doing vipassana, if you're focusing on your eating, please be aware. Try to focus on all three doors which are functioning at that moment. It may be slightly difficult, but if you have some attention, you'll be able to focus on that. And also try to see how all the senses, sense of smell, sense of taste, sense of touch, arises and passes away, and how they are non-self, how they are out of our control, and how they are just mere senses, right? Then, so these are the explanations that I would like to give about the smell and taste. Smell is just the smell. It doesn't belong to any of the four great elements. So it doesn't belong to you as well, because if the smell is not belonging to four great elements, how could it belong to you, right? It's just a smell. So you have to consider it's just a smell. But the thing is, we tend to have a belonging to that smell. If our body is emitting a certain bad smell, we become very unpleasant, or we feel shy about that. The thing is, there is a certain kind of a connection that we have made in our mind, that this smell belongs to me. It doesn't mean that we have to be careless on that, but what we have to consider is that the idea of self is greatly found in this object of smell. And with regard to the taste, that's not that much found with taste. The idea of a self based on taste is not found that much regarding to our bodies. That is mainly found with regard to the food. The attachment is towards the outer side. Or maybe if sometimes people may feel the taste for some person's other's body if they have an intimate relationship. But most of the time, the taste is found, the attachment to the taste is regarding the food in most of the cases. So what we have to do is, you have to just focus on these two qualities. It's just a smell, it's just a taste, and it's nothing other than these qualities, not a self. So if you are focusing on the taste within your body, you are not supposed to lick your body to feel the taste, but what we have to consider is, as taste is found within a certain food particle or food item, likewise a certain taste is found within our entire body. Only if we lick it, we will be able to feel it, but the taste is still found here. So the idea of taste, idea of smell, we have just to focus on those qualities, and when we keep on focusing on these qualities, the idea of self would disappear. Then we come into another topic, Rasa Rammana and Arammana Rasa, the difference. If you divide the two words, now think, Rasa plus Arammana. In the second term, Arammana plus Rasa. Seems like the words have been shifted. Normally it should be the same, but if we combine the terms in the nominative case in Pali, the meaning should be changed. Either you have switch the positions, like we call it, what kind of samasa? Up and down, right? Sometimes the first word comes at the end, right? Now here, the terminology should be Raso eva Arammana. So these are connected, nominative. Arammana Rasa is genitive. Arammanassa Raso. Genitive plus nominative. They're slightly different, right? There is a definition given in Mani Manjusa Tika mentioning that Arammano eva raso, Arammanang eva raso, Aramman raso. But that has to be explained in detail. I'm not going into that definition, right? But still, so they are there. What I want to mention is these are two terms. Rasa Rammana means the object of taste. That is the inbuilt quality which we discussed today. When the four great elements come together, a certain different quality, which is called rasa, occurs with them. That is the rasa Rammana. Arammana rasa is a certain kind of quality found in any object. This Arammana rasa can be found in Rasa Rammana even. Rasa Rammana is taste. Taste has a particular flavor in it. We are not talking about the salty or bitter or sweet flavor. We are talking about a certain quality within it. A quality, certain quality. And also that flavor can be found in sound even, in a visible object, in a smell, which causes us to distinguish something as pleasant or unpleasant. So this flavor is normally threefold. That is pleasant flavor, unpleasant flavor, neither pleasant nor unpleasant. So Arammana rasa is ittha, pleasant, unpleasant, neither pleasant nor unpleasant. So in Pali we call ittha. Anittha majjata. Anittha or majjata. Arammana rasa makes the Arammana either to be pleasant, unpleasant or neutral. Neither pleasant nor unpleasant. It is not an object. It is not the object. It is a quality within the object. When the consciousness takes the object, Vedana becomes sensitive to this quality. Vedana becomes sensitive to this quality, right? So now, if you think about the taste. Now, this is the kalapa. Kalapa has smell. Kalapa has smell. This smell has Arammana rasa, either pleasant or unpleasant, or neither pleasant nor unpleasant, neutral, for example. Right? Arammana rasa, this is Arammana. Arammana contains this quality. Smell is found within a kalapa. Now we are talking about the sense objects, right? Now think about a kalapa. Kalapa contains smell. That smell has it's not a different ultimate reality. It is an attribute of the smell. It's a quality of the smell. So when the consciousness focuses at the smell, our Vedana, which arises together with it, becomes sensitive to this quality of the smell. Now, with regard to rasa even, we have taste. Taste is called Rasa Rammana. Rasa Rammana has Arammana rasa, either pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. Arammana rasa. So these two terms should not be confused. Right? Two terms should not be confused. Arammana rasa is a quality within any object. Rasa Rammana is specifically the taste which is found only in the material kalapas. Arammana rasa can be found in other objects as well, in mentalities even. Especially we are talking about the sense objects, but it is mentioned that every object in the world have a specific Arammana rasa. A specific Arammana rasa. And it has its own Arammana rasa. At the same time, sometimes our Arammana rasa of object is felt different to its actual nature. That's why pleasant objects can be felt as unpleasant due to under different circumstances. So that is also another point that I would like to discuss, Rasa Rammana and Arammana Rasa. Yeah, that would be the lecture. So today's lecture we talked about Ganda Rammana, Ganda and Rasa Rupas, and the difference between Arammana Rasa and Rasa Rammana. All suggest that these are just mere material qualities. They cannot be or should not be distinguished or coined as self or I. Right. So what we are supposed to do is just focus on these attributes of smell and taste, and the mind would start to say, no, the mere smell cannot be called I, the mere taste cannot be called I. And scientifically it is an idea that is created in the mind, in the brain, but according to tradition, these are the qualities that are found within the material stuff. Yeah. So I'll conclude the lecture, giving the opportunity to ask the questions.
Saru, thank you very much, Bhante. So hello everyone. So as usual, if you have any question, you can raise your hand or you can put your question in the chat box. We can read it out for you. Good morning, Bhante. I have a question about the conditions or the arisings of the Pancha Vijnana. Right? So specifically, let's talk about the Gana Vijnana and Jiva Vijnana. Right? So for the Gana Vijnana, we know that one of the conditions is the Vayo, right? And then for the Jiva Vijnana, one of the conditions is Apo. So could you please a little bit more about these two things? Specifically, are they the Kalapiya Rupa or Antarakalapiya Rupa?
Yeah, that is another very important factor, very important point to discuss. Now, when Ganda when these particles have to be carried and strikes at the Gana Pasada, right? They have to strike at here. Now, who carries this? That's the point. Who carries it? Now, we know according to the tradition, it has to move from here to here. Movement is caused by Vayu. Movement is caused by Vayu. The object, the Kalapa itself, the Vayu of the Kalapa is to have it a certain shape, bloating nature. It is the pushing nature. If we draw it a bit larger, this is the Kalapa. Vayu pushes it, and therefore the Kalapa has a certain shape. But why is it moving? So moving means it's also caused by Vayu. It shows that a certain kind of motion is associated in this particular thing. So that motion should be considered as something of the Kalapa. It's moving, right? Then the Vayu, and this. Then the next point is, now as a group, as a body of air, right? A lot of particles would move, right? A lot of particles which contain Vayu, they move here. So in that case, we can consider there is a sort of a Antarakalapiya Vayu, because they are causing a certain kind of a force to the outside. And also we discuss how the most difficult element to explain in Antarakalapiya nature, one of the most difficult is the Vayu, right? Vayu, because even though they are causing a certain pressure to the outside, we can explain it as individually causing, individually pushing, right? So when the air travels as an entire unit, one unit, we have to consider as an air body of air which enters into the thing and strikes there. So if we consider about one Kalapa is moving. So that movement, the cause of movement is associated with that Kalapa itself. So we can say, instead of, other than the bloating nature, the moving quality is found within the Kalapa. But if we take it as an entire body of air traveling, we can also feel the entire body is also causing some kind of a pressure to the outside. So this entire thing goes in and strikes there. So either we can call it the movement is associated associating the single Kalapa or the entire body of Kalapas. Then we come into the liquidity when it comes to the Jivha. So it strikes at the jiva pasada. The food particles have to strike at the jiva pasada. But it has to be, in order to become sensitive, but I don't know the reason how the tradition explains it, but somehow it has to be dissolved in the water, The liquidity has to be found. So we discussed about this matter. The liquidity is a quality that has to be explained in terms of antarkalapiya. Because we cannot explain liquidity taking the kalapas separately. So with regard to the apo, it is obvious that if we take that approach, it's the antarkalapiya of apo which is responsible. Because when the liquid is found, so it gets dissolved in the hard surface, is getting dissolved in the water, the hard particles. So that is due to the liquidity, and liquidity is a quality of a antarkalapiya apo. So that's how I would try to explain that.
Thank you, but then for the apo, then because we talked about something like a saliva, it is to have saliva. So it looks to me that the antarkalapiya apo we're talking about here is the antarkalapiya of the saliva, not of the kalapa that contains the water.
Yes.
The rasa, right?
Yes. Antarkalapiya of the saliva, yes. The liquidity is found in the saliva. So we are talking about the antarkalapiya apo of the saliva. Not the, even the tradition says that apo is attributed to the saliva, not to the food particle. The apo that is explained in the books about that is necessary for the tongue consciousness to arise is the liquidity of the saliva itself. I'm not sure if a liquid enters into our body, into the mouth, just a mere liquid, whether saliva is needed or not. That's another thing we have to think. But if a rice particle comes into the tongue, it needs to get dissolved in the saliva. So the apo which is mentioned in the book is about the saliva, not about the particle.
I see. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay,
please go ahead, Sally.
Good morning, Bante.
Good morning, Sally.
So that's a Bali word when you mentioned in the Rasa Rupa there, the katuka, it translates sharp. Can we translate it as a pungency?
Sorry, I didn't get your word. Katuka.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, can we translate it as a pungency? It's something like need to be the spicy and it's like a taste.
Okay. How do you spell it?
Pungency.
Pungency. Okay. Right. Maybe because that's why I just put a question mark. I think in the handout I have written like this, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure about it. So if it is, how do you translate it? What is the opinion of?
It's something like it need to be the spicy, but it's not only spicy.
Right.
You see the Korean noodle? That's one.
Okay.
Making the name there.
Pungency. Okay. Well, okay. What does Dr. Ryan thinks about this? What is your opinion?
Oh yeah. I mean, when you look into the dictionary, those two are the two definitions of the same word.
Sharp and pungency.
It can be sharp or it can be pungent. Yeah.
Okay. So this is felt.
Basically, they refer to the same things. You can say sharp. It's a sharp taste, and it also can be the pungent.
Pungent taste. Okay.
Pungent. Yes.
Yes, Sally. Which food you said? Korean noodles, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, we can translate both then, sharp and pungency.
Okay, so but the next question is like we talk about like a baby. So they have never tasted like a sweetness and the sour. But if we feed them with like a sugar, they like it. Like just a few months born baby. But if we feed the lemon, they don't like it.
Yeah.
But they have never experienced such sense before. So in such sense, can we say the human being, they have the nature to nature tended to the sweetness instead of like a sour taste or something like that?
We can say like that. We can say that. And also we can say the bitterness is always associated with anittarammana rasa. Sweetness is most of the cases associated with ittarammana rasa. We can also term like that. Or maybe another way of explaining is when the highly unpleasant arammana rasa, anitta arammana rasa is there, the objects tend to be bitter, the taste tend to be bitter. If the pleasantness is there, it tends to be sweet. So it also can be said that it shows that the object itself, regardless of the person's perception, the object itself contains the pleasantness and unpleasantness. It's a very good argument for this. Why the children, without any perceptions that we grown-up adults have, tend to like sweetness and to push away or dislike bitterness. So it shows that the object itself contains this pleasantness and unpleasantness. It's another way to think. And then the question comes, some animals may like different tastes. Some may like unpleasant. Now think about a cat, right? You give a certain kind of a meat, which is very, very unpleasant to us in some cases. They would surely try to eat it. They even eat lizards alive, right? So alive means without cooking, the flesh they eat, raw flesh. In such cases, it's also possible to say certain animals, certain creatures have a tendency to like such objects. Now think about a pig who likes the excrement it's impossible for us even to think how could someone eat such a thing. So therefore it's the nature of the being. So their inbuilt rupa causes them to, it helps them to digest, not to digest, to accept or to face such a taste, and they naturally feel happy or pleasant about such taste. So as you said, a tendency is found within the living being as well, like the different animals or different living beings have different tendencies to like and dislike certain objects. At the same time, we can also term that the object itself has this pleasantness and unpleasantness. It is a field of philosophy. Some philosophers think that there is something really called beauty in the world. The aesthetics comes with that idea. So whether people like it or not, the objects themselves contain this pleasantness and unpleasantness. It's a field of philosophy, branch of philosophy as well. So as you said, we can call it's a nature of the humans. At the same time, we can also bring that argument to say that the objects themselves contain this pleasantness and unpleasantness.
Oh, okay. So another question, when we practice anapana for some time, we become very sensitive to the smell.
Yeah.
So it is because the concentration becomes stronger, or is it because there's something like a
increasing of the sensitivity? No, I think it's because of we are not developing the ability of the nose sensitivity by meditation. We are developing the concentration. So when we are highly concentrated, we see the object sharply. I think that's what is happening. Now think about the dibba sota that you are developing after meditation. We have to listen to subtle sounds with our ear. So we are able to focus well. And then we move on to sounds that are beyond the human, the span of the human ear. And we try to listen to subtle sounds and faraway sounds. So likewise, the concentration enables us to focus, to have a subtle or sharp focus. And you are also familiar, while we are in a good concentration, if we have been meditating for some time and the mind is calm and sharp, if suddenly something falls on earth or falls on the floor, it appears to like as a thunder strike, right? Even a pen falling from a table, we would suddenly get a jerk, and the mind starts to react very, very suddenly to that sound. So as Mahasi Sayadaw suggests that in such occasions, the passa, the contact, is very strong with the object, due to our mind become well concentrated. So I think it's due to the heights of the concentration rather than the the ability of the sensitivity has increased because of our meditation.
And also, can we see the sensitivity when we grow up, when we like become a little bit old day by day, so our sensitive, the ability of the sensitive also decrease.
Decrease,
right?
yes. Sure.
Yeah, because something like when we eat some food when we were in our child, and now we eat the same food, but we feel that the food in child is very tasty, but now it's not like that.
Yes. Also,
because of the sensitivity.
yes, the degree of the sensitivity is also reduces, and also our mind. I personally feel now when we grow up, our mind is occupied with lots of thoughts. So then how we perceive the world also changes. Now think about a toy. When we were children, we got a toy and we are so elated with that. But now even that toy is given, we just leave it and give it to someone else. In those days, we'll be very protective of that toy. So the same object causes different emotions to happen. In the same way, I also feel, as you said, deterioration happens with the age, that's for sure. It says that old people, when they got older, the feeling of smell reduces drastically. Because of our perception of the world, sometimes even the sweetness is felt in a similar manner, not the same, in a similar manner. Still, we won't react in such a way. So, for that, we have to keep in mind, another point is, our idea of pleasantness, the feel of pleasantness and unpleasantness, our joy or the sweetness in our mind, pleasantness in our mind or unpleasantness in our mind, somanas and domanas. I'm not talking about the object, I'm talking about the internal factors. The idea of somanas and domanasa, it's not merely based on the five sense contact, the feeling of the five sense doors. It's all huge contribution is given by the mind as well. Now think about this in your meditation. Now if you have done vipassana, focusing on the object that come now, for example, the Mahasi technique, you are supposed to focus on the pain, right? You are supposed to focus on the pain. When we grow in meditation and our concentration develops, we are able to focus on that pain with a very pleasant, undisturbed mind, and sometimes can even enjoy it. But the same pain, even at a lower degree of that similar pain, the degree is lower to that pain, before we meditated, our entire life, our entire mind would react to it in a very harsh way. So, if you think about just the five sense doors, the experience in the five sense doors, they were similar because 1 hour ago, before the meditation, the mind really didn't like that pain, but after the mind is well concentrated, it can truly enjoy it or focus on it without being disturbed. So the same amount of intensity was there, but our feeling of the mind was sharply different, conspicuously different. The thing was, what we add from the mind do. We add a lot to the mind, from the mind to this experience. It's not only the five sense doors. Our fooling from the mind also contributes to this elation and suffering that we have experienced in them. So that's why the same person in few different minutes, even after that, now having a very nice experience in meditation, observing the pain happily, after that, after we have stood up from meditation, and while we are not that much mindful, the similar kind of a pain would bring us a lot of suffering. So the thing is, there's a lot of addition that we give from the mind. So therefore, when we grow up, even if the taste was similar, our attitude towards it, our way we look into it also contributes to our feeling. So when I'm talking about a feeling, I'm talking about generally, entirely the five sense do and mind do combined. So as you said, deterioration happens. At the same time, our change of attitude also contributes this obvious change.
Okay, thank you so much, Bande.
Sadhu.
Yes, sadhu. Thank you very much, Bande.
So Bande, if you don't have question, I would like to ask another one. This other complement this. So some people, I heard some people said when their concentration becomes very strong, so they can smell some bad things around us. They said that smell comes from like the ghost. Is that type that we can experience?
It can be possible and can be some other smell, because according to the Buddhist literature there are ghosts, so such smells can be emitted by them. Possible that were already there, but we were not sensitive to that because of our lack of concentration. Possibility is there, but we should not term it as it is, because there can be some other smell in the environment that we were not sensitive before meditation. So as we said, when the concentration grows higher, our mind becomes sensitive to subtle objects. It is mentioned by most of the meditation teachers, and they tell us to be some aware of this fact, because some tends to believe in some supernatural ideologies with that. So even the subtle noises can be heard at large ones. Even now, if you think, there is a story in the Buddhist literature. Someone had a quarrel or some issue, and I think he went near to a lake, and he was just observing, looking at the lake, at some flowers, and suddenly he saw a group of an entire army was coming and going inside that flower, and going to they were going inside the flower. Then he said, "Oh, I saw an entire army going into that flower." Then no one believed him, and he said, "You are gone crazy. What? How can an army go into the flower?" Then that man also thought, "Oh, okay, maybe I had an illusion, or maybe something wrong with my mind." Then the Buddha said, "No, that was a true phenomenon. That was the time that asuras fought against the devas, and they lost, and they went through that place to their destination." The Buddha claimed that was a true vision, actual vision that he had. So likewise, when our mind is concentrated, or when our mind is a bit sharper, we may be able to see and hear sounds, see objects, hear sounds, or smells that are not felt to others in the normal conditions. So it can be such a superhuman or unnatural phenomenon, but at the same time it can be a normal smell that already existed, which we were oblivious to, but later, due to our concentration, we became sensitive. We became aware of.
So if such thing happened to a person who already has like a mental problem, that will be very dangerous for him.
Exactly. That's true.
So that's for those people who have mental problems. It's better not to practice that like meditation. Do some like a Vija or something. Is better.
No, they can meditate under a teacher, the supervision of a teacher. Teacher would always instruct him. It's better not to meditate alone. Always under.
The samatha practice is very dangerous for them, right?
Yes, it can be. It's
better for only practicing vipassana.
I'm not giving a conclusion, otherwise it's a dangerous statement. Then the others can see that I conclude that this samatha is not for the ones who have mental problem. It can be, I would say. I have to be very careful with my wording. So it seems like for some it may be dangerous, yeah. But I would always recommend to people who have weak mindsets to meditate under the guidance of teachers always. Especially who are believing in these supernatural things more than the normal level.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, so.
Yes, hi Bhante. Since you mentioned the about what things are realm, I have a question about that.
Okay, sure.
So the naming of that realm is because there are 33 gods.
Tavatinsa, yeah.
Right, Bhante?
Yeah.
But then does that mean that that naming only happens in this world system?
It says, like in the Tavatinsa realm, in all the world systems, there are 32 positions allocated in the realm. So when someone is vacant, we be able to be born there. So it is governed by 33, a panel of 33. Every Tavatinsa in the universe is governed by a panel of 33. Then when it comes to yama, it's governed by a family. The family politics are there actually. So it's governed by a group of family called yama. So when I said this, once monk said, "Oh, I don't want to go into that realm. It's enough for me." So anyway, so a group of a family controls that realm, and that family is called yama. So likewise, there are governing systems, and the Thavatinsa system is governed by 33.
What is the reason why the number 33?
That is Dhammatha, I think. So when I say Dhammatha, is unexplainable, right? So I think that's the Dhammatha.
Yes, because, right, so for example, in our world system, we know that the group of friends, they have 33
right.
people in that group.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be like that for other world systems, right?
Right. So there were two occasions, according to our literature, there were two special occasions in which all 33 were born together. That was the story of Magga Manavaka, the Sakka, present Sakka, and also the Bodhisattva had a similar experience in a past life. So on other occasions, one or two may be vacant and suddenly someone can be born there. On two special occasions, all the 33 was born together as a group. There were two rare occasions which occurred in the Thavatinsa realm. Otherwise, only the Sakka, the vacancy of Sakka is there. So someone who has fulfilled the virtues may be born there. And the Pajapati's position can be vacant. The Varuna's position can be vacant. So all the three gods, Varuna, Pajapati, and Isana, you find in Dajagga Sutta, are three positions of that 33 realm. And that's how it is explained.
Okay, thank you, Bhante. Sadhu. Yes,
okay.
No, I don't see any more questions.
Okay, we'll call it today. Okay, sadhu. And thank you for listening. And today we discussed about the Vasarupa and Gandharupa, which are also fundamental elements of the material world and which contributes to our sensual pleasures greatly, and also for the lengthening of our samsara due to arousing craving. So we are supposed to focus on these qualities as they are, not mixing them with the self or not attributing them to a self. So that's the takeaway message that we have to take from these lessons. So thank you for listening. Next week I'll be discussing about Oja on Saturday and Akasa on Sunday. Then move on to the definition of Rupa and go ahead. Right. So wish you all the best and thank you for listening. May this merit helps us to attain our liberations and also for the sustaining of the Buddha Sasana. Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu. Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu. Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.